Darkcast Network. Indie pods with a dark side.
Devil is on his way. Devil is on his way. Devil is on his way, motherfucker. The devil gonna make you pay. Fall to your knees. Devil is on his way. Fall to your knees. Devil gonna make you pay. Fall to your knees. Devil is on his way.
Mountain Murders is an Appalachian true crime podcast. Some content may not be suitable for all listeners. Listener discretion is advised.
We say fuck a lot. Hey, y'all. Welcome back to Mountain Murders Podcast. I'm Heather.
And I'm Dylan.
Hey, Dill.
Oh my gosh.
What's up, Pickle?
I don't know if our listeners understand that we are moving mountains to bring them content right now.
They have no idea. If only they could see our makeshift studio.
Well, they're just like, you're late again like usual. Ain't no big deal. That's why I tune in.
Well, you know what I say, Dylan? Better late than ugly.
That is not how the saying goes. And
I'm looking damn cute right now.
But you know what?
Just kidding.
Nothing's going to
I'm
stop
not
us.
looking cute.
Nothing's going to stop us from making it happen.
We're like Starship. Nothing's going to stop us now.
It's true.
You know, I like Starship.
Not even the police can stop us.
Well, they might be able to.
All right, so how are you doing, gal?
Only Judy can judge me.
It's true.
I'm hanging in there.
I've got to say lately,
We've been on the struggle bus a little bit.
I've said it before. I'm that little kitty on the motivational poster at the guidance counselor office who's about to fall off the branch, and I'm hanging in there.
You know, Dylan, good times, they are ahead. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling very confident.
It's true. We have some growing pains, and we won't get into that now, but
we have begun our true crime tour of America.
We're unhoused.
Well, no, we're housed in an ambulance. Well, actually, right now we're housed in your mother's house.
You want to just tell them a quick bit? How awesome our trip started?
Yeah.
Okay, 100 miles into our trip in the ambulance, we threw a belt, broke.
Was it the serpentine belt?
The only belt on the entire engine, the serpentine. And we were down on the side of the interstate in beautiful Morganton, North Carolina. And so that's not a...
Well, actually, it was... I'm not sure if it was Morganton. It was between Marion and Morganton.
Yeah, I think it's right in that area. Right down in the flatlands.
But dude, it's off of I-40, I'll tell you that.
And...
but we were lucky... Okay, I'm trying to find the silver lining in all this still.
We're going to... Let's tell them. We're late. Let's go ahead and tell them.
We were lucky in that we were very close to our hometown.
Yes.
So we were able to quickly get our ambulance to a mechanic.
And we happened to be driving Heather's car behind us, or we would have been totally stranded.
We would have been screwed. And we were able to shoot back to our hometown and stay with our besties.
We did.
We have our couple besties, and we stayed with them. They were very hospitable.
Very.
I mean, we really are lucky to have such great friends. So we were there for a bit, and we hopped in the car. We drove to Chapel Hill, so we are now officially on our tour because we are here in Chapel Hill for a bit.
So I learned two lessons, or multiple lessons, and I'll say this right quick. A, I'm going to have to be a little handier around a vehicle, okay? Because according to my country buddies, diesels throw belts now and again because the motor shakes or whatever. So I got to learn how to do that. And B, when you have someone go through your vehicle and they told you they did, even if it's a professional mechanic, you might want to crawl around your vehicle and take a look-see for yourself. Because here's the gem of it all, folks.
Oh, yeah.
The tow truck driver's
I wasn't going to go this much in depth about our situation, Dylan.
Well, I just think it happened for a reason. The tow truck driver's like, it's just a belt. No big deal, bud. We'll get you a belt on there. No problem. They're really nice people there in the area. And
you know why, Dylan? Because they're just good old country people. Yeah. And you can't beat good old country people.
It's true. So as soon as I start feeling a little better, hey, it's not a big deal. It's just a little hiccup. He pulls this big monster ambulance up on his rollback, and he takes one glance underneath her at eye level. And he says, oh, God, come here and look at this. And it turns out we have absolutely no suspension in the rear. All our leaf springs are broken and we could have died. So anywho, Lucy's at the doctor and she's going to get better.
Dr. Feelgood.
Oh, my God. My pocket ain't going to feel good, but we'll be safe.
Well, Dylan, we're fortunate in that we can cover this. We've got it under control.
I'm prostituting
And now
myself.
it's just a waiting game.
Yes.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned prostitution, Dylan.
Is it?
It's funny that you mentioned that because, well, we'll get into that. Anywho, we're in Chapel Hill. We're safe. We're well taken care of. And we will soon be back on the road and we'll begin the rest of our journey. But while we're here, we're taking advantage of everything that this wonderful town has to offer.
I'm at my mama's house.
Yes. Dylan, it really warms my heart to see you interacting with your mom and your uncle.
Because you've never really seen that, correct?
Well, we haven't spent a whole lot of time down this way
No,
together.
We'll come visit for a day or overnight or 2 days, the weekend. But I'm going to take this little bump in the road as an opportunity to really hang out with my mama and let my wife get to know her.
Your mom is a hoot. She's so funny.
She's pretty
She's got
awesome.
a great sense of humor. So I've really been enjoying our time, even though we've only been here like a day. I've had a great time, Dylan, and we had a fantastic lunch and we lucked up. We went to this little sushi spot and we got a BOGO. It was buy one, get one rolls.
For a whole sushi
So
roll.
we had like a fantastic sushi lunch for $22. And if you can get out with 2 rolls, an appetizer, $22, you're winning. That is winning in my game. That or in my book and in the game. And Charlie Sheen would be proud though.
The bill was so low, I assumed the woman, our server, had made a mistake. And I was about to tell her, hey, I don't think this is right. And Heather's like, oh my God, we just got a $16 sushi roll for free.
Yeah, it was delicious. So you know what? This might be my town, bro.
They have food.
Okay, bud. So let's get into our episode. We are a little bit late getting it out, but that's just how we roll around here. Definitely not rolling in the ambulance right now, so we'll roll in late. Are you ready?
It's like when you got no bail money, you're late getting out. Ha ha.
Yeah.
I'm here for it.
Sometimes being late is bad,
Right.
but you know what? Smile, Dylan, because you're not pregnant. Now, moving along.
I'm just tickled pink to be talking to the listeners. Let's get it.
When you think of criminal enterprises, what comes to mind? Do you think of gangs, the mafia, Costa Nostra? What do you think here?
The U.S. government.
Yes, criminal enterprises.
No, typically, if you were to just say that statement to me out of the blue, I would think of organized crime or some crime rings.
Ocean's 11 types of masterminds with demolition experts, IT, hacker, professional types.
I would be the grease guy.
Okay, explain.
Well, actually, I wouldn't be because the grease guy is very nimble, flexible, and can be stuck. I think I'm saying this right. Can be crammed into strange compartments where humans shouldn't fit, and then they can sneak in and be left in the vault.
Baby, that's definitely not you.
I'm just
Although
a greasy
you're
guy.
quite flexible, you are thick with 3 C's.
It would just be like a statue of a thick boy, and I'd be inside of it.
Yes. But you have a lot of other talents,
It's true.
right? Like you could be the face of the operation because you're a bullshitter. You're good at bullshit.
It's true. I'm going to try to use that to my advantage in the future.
Yeah. I'm not even going to talk about what my criminal talents could be.
You would be the mastermind.
No,
would-
I don't want to be in charge.
But you would be George Clooney if this is Ocean's 11.
Oh, thank you. I mean, he's pretty hot. I'll take that.
I think he would make a great president.
So our case today reminds me of The Wizard of Oz. Like when you pull back the curtain and find there's only one person pulling the strings of this criminal enterprise.
Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
Exactly.
Right.
All right. So Dylan, the oldest profession in the world, it had a new meaning with the publication of Rudyard Kipling's short story published in 1889 called On the City Wall. Before that, when people used that phrase, the oldest profession in the world, they spoke of farmers, tailors, bakers, tool makers. But it was with this story that our definition of that phrase or the meaning of that phrase changed.
Oh, wow. I was not aware of that.
Because now when we say the oldest profession in the world, what do we mean, Dylan?
We're talking about some soiled doves and some madams. Prostitution.
That's right. So Sallie McAfee was born to an unwed 15-year-old mother in 1950. By the way, her mother's name was also Sallie. She was raised primarily by her grandparents, Stanley and Alma McAfee, who were of some affluence in Charlotte, North Carolina. The McAfees were charter members of the Charlotte Country Club, and they frequented the society pages. I would find announcements in these old newspapers about bridge games.
That was a big deal.
They,
it's like if you're not invited, you're not the who's who.
Right. So bridge games, if they were receiving a visitor, like a special guest for the weekend,
Wow.
there would be an announcement like Mr. and Mrs.
McAfee
are hosting blah, blah, blah from blah, blah, blah.
Really?
Yeah, it was it's so interesting. They were really putting their business out there. It was like social media before social media.
So it'll just be like galas and balls and big dinners and
the
things
society
like that.
pages, absolutely. Weddings, any kind of achievement. You won a golf tournament, a tennis match. You'll be giving a piano concert.
But I guess the point is people actually want to know.
They wanted to know, Dylan. These were like the who's who of the Charlotte metropolitan area. So the McAfees were charter members, as I mentioned, of the Charlotte Country Club, and continued to, kind of do that up until they passed. So Sallie's grandparents raised the young girl with exposure to Charlotte society and what it had to offer. Young Sallie took ballet, piano, ballroom dancing classes, and also etiquette classes.
I think I could have stood a few of those.
Well,
actually, you know what? I know a lot about etiquette and I know a lot about manners, and I can be very, very prim and proper if I want to.
I must admit, I get a little confused with the various forks on the table.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and tell you.
A shrimp fork, a salad fork, a dessert fork.
I'm using this one fork for everything.
You ain't got to lie, Dylan. You know you be using your fingers and shit.
I would just think those other forks are like extra forks, and you pick the size that works for you in your little mouth, and then you get to take the other ones home.
Look, I was recently thinking about how I would like to surprise you, but now it's not a surprise because we're discussing it. I want to take you to a Michelin star restaurant.
Ooh.
I mean, even if it's just 1 star, right?
Yeah.
Where we can have like a 10-course tasting menu. And it's expensive.
Oh, I've been to one of those.
It's, they're very pricey.
I've been to one.
But then I was thinking about it and I'm like, I'm going to trip up because I'm not going to know which fork to use.
Yeah, I went to Ryan's. It's a buffet. America's greatest buffet, actually.
I think the Golden Corral beats Ryan's.
Well, it's the same. I mean, they're both Michelin checked, and I had all.
Because you get pudding at the Golden Corral.
I had all the courses. You had international section. You had tacos over here, spaghetti over here,
okay,
American family style over here. So, I mean, come on, I'm cultured.
Pudding.
I like pudding skins.
Pudding.
What's wrong with us?
This is why people listen, Dylan. It's this content they're after.
Go.
Me saying pudding on repeat. Okay, so the McAfees attended Myers Park United Methodist Church, and Sallie attended church growing up. When she was a young girl, her mother married a man named Charles Wamsley, who adopted the child. Yet Sallie continued living with her grandparents. Sallie developed into a beautiful teen who took modeling classes, and she did modeling. She landed some modeling jobs around the Charlotte area for Ivy's department store as well as Montaldo's.
Wow.
Now, I remember Ivy's. There was an Ivy's department store in Asheville when I was a young girl, and I remember going there and on occasion and getting like a fancy outfit or something. And I felt like, ooh, like I was somebody.
Yeah, it seems like when we were younger, it was maybe and it wasn't even that fancy of clothes for me, but like
I mean, it was like equivalent to a Belk
or JCPenney
or like a Burdines if you're like in Florida.
But like I remember like
or Macy's.
What is it? Clothes Warehouse,
Dillard's.
World of Clothing, stuff like that. It was just a
Yeah.
huge store with all kinds of stuff. And I just thought we were really doing something. And you buy like more than one outfit at once? Shit.
Can't tell you nothing.
Can't tell me nothing.
But I mean, modeling, even at a local level like that is, that's pretty cool, right?
Well, it's kind of like writing. Even being published, no matter where. So, I mean, of course, nowadays we can self-publish very easily, but being published through something, I don't care if it's a Sears catalog or the Reader's Digest, I think it's a big deal.
It is. So a blurb was published, this is just an example, on the society page of, I believe it was the Charlotte News and Observer in 1966 about high school student Sallie McAfee Wamsley visiting Bogota, Colombia for a month.
Oh, wow.
As an older teen, Sallie was sexually abused by an older man. She had plans to attend Meredith College and possibly join the United States Navy, but those plans were thwarted. At 18 years old, Sallie became pregnant and was forced to marry her boyfriend. Sallie's mother encouraged Sallie to have an abortion, but she refused. Her mother doled out a severe beating that hospitalized Sallie for 3 weeks, and she almost miscarried the baby.
Well, that's terrible in so many ways. Now, I mean, it's always going to be tough if you haven't been together long, you're young, and you get pregnant. But could you imagine being in a circumstance where you're forced into being married and you might not even like the person? I mean, I couldn't imagine that arranged marriages and things like that just kind of blow my mind.
I should have given a trigger warning here. Because that was pretty rough, but I will be discussing domestic violence in this episode. So if that bothers you, you don't want to listen, we understand it's not the episode for you.
We do understand, but this is a very Mountain Murders thing to do. Give trigger warnings after we possibly triggered you. So we apologize.
And I apologize. I'm terrible with this, but moving along, Dylan. Her husband's name was Jack Foy. Foy was a known light welterweight boxer and Golden Gloves champion. Like many young men of his generation, Foy served in Vietnam. When he returned, Sallie said her husband was not the same. He was a changed man. Suddenly, the marriage turned explosive, with Foy becoming physically abusive to his wife. He also physically abused their son as well. During one beating, he caused their son to have a stroke, and the child suffered from epilepsy after.
Wow.
This is according to Sallie's own words. He was left with partial paralysis. Foy was diagnosed as a paranoid schizophrenic who also had bipolar disorder. Sallie suffered horrific beatings at the hands of her husband, which left her with broken ribs, black eyes, and cracked teeth.
Now, from my limited knowledge, bipolar mixed with a paranoid schizophrenia is a very bad combination in many ways.
It can be dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you're going to have like extreme mood swings, and you're also going to have maybe the disillusionment or the disconnect from reality and the paranoia that people's out to get you and all that stuff. And I feel really sad for people that deal with that. But at the same time, it can be a volatile cocktail.
Well, and I'm also imagining, he was in Vietnam, and that was a particularly brutal war, as we know. History has filled us in, right? And those people witnessed the people who served, they witnessed some horrific things. And then they come home, they're described as different, they're changed, and back in the day, they might refer to that as shell shock, but we know that now as PTSD. So it sounds like her husband had these other mental issues coupled with PTSD.
Yeah, I agree completely. And one thing very unique, in my opinion, about the Vietnam War, especially in America, is they also came home and were spit on, screamed at, called baby killer because of the anti-war
Right.
sentiment.
They did not receive a warm reception.
No, and I don't remember any other war in our recent history where the troops were treated this way when they came home. I mean, that had to be terrible. And it was a draft. Most of them didn't want to go, much like the Civil War.
Exactly, Dylan. So according to Sallie, her husband served time in prison for assaulting women, though I couldn't find details about that to add to the story. Sallie was finally able to leave her terrible marriage, but she was severely depressed. After being diagnosed with bipolar disorder herself, she had a failed suicide attempt, and Sallie was hospitalized at Presbyterian's psychiatric ward. And there's a Presbyterian hospital in Charlotte. She underwent between 7 to 13 shock therapy treatments.
Oh my gosh.
So this would have been in the 70s.
I have family members that had shock treatment.
And our mental health care system in America, it's not great. We all know that. But it's vastly better than it was even 30 years ago, 40 years ago.
It seems like even in
50 years ago.
60s and 70s, you still had almost this experimentation in
they were
mental
still
health.
performing lobotomies up until the 70s, I'm fairly certain.
Yeah, I want to say mid 70s or so, late 70s maybe was when the last official lobotomy was performed. And I mean, that just blows my mind that people were randomly, with very little understanding of what they were actually doing and scooping out pieces of your brain through your nasal cavity. Just think about how terrible that is.
Well, there was some experimentation to figure out you could go through the nasal cavity, because some of the first lobotomies were like maybe through the temple.
Oh my gosh.
And people passed away from this procedure.
Well, I got to imagine a spike into your brain, no matter how it arrives there, is probably not going to be a good thing.
Well, no, certainly not. In 1976, Sallie married a man named David Pruitt. The marriage didn't last, and by the late 70s, Sallie was with 2 children. She was a single mom. She went to work as a sales trainer for a chemical company, but struggled to make ends meet. Sallie knew a guy who worked at a place called City Club, where she would go for lunch. One day, while chatting about their problems, he offered Sallie a solution, a way to make money. Good money, Dylan.
Ooh, I think everybody wants to make some good money.
Well, is there such thing as bad money?
Yes.
But when people say good money, we know what they mean. They mean lots of money.
I want to make sassy money. They mean lots of money fast.
Quick, fast cash.
And in a hurry.
Dylan, the thing about quick, fast cash, it spins quick. It leaves your life just as fast as you come into this fast money.
Yeah.
It leaves just as quickly. It departs. It's hard to hang on to fast cash.
It's because it's addictive. I've seen this many times in my life. People go have access to fast cash. It doesn't matter if they're selling some weed, some coke, whatever, have, some kind of scam or just easy, fast money. The reason they spend it like that is because they know they can go in the next couple of days and make thousands more. So, you're not limited by like structured salaries and stuff like that. Why do most people stop spending? Is because they can't. They don't have it to, right. They don't have but so much.
In careers or jobs that are gratuity based or tip based, like a server or a bartender, you get that fast I've been a server, I've been a bartender over the years, and you get that cash money every day,
daily money,
and it's hard to hang on to it.
Yeah, if you can go into work and make hundreds of dollars,
I'm gonna make $200 tomorrow, so why am I gonna hang on to this money today?
Buy scratch offs and liquor.
Well, that's not what I bought. I made smart investments, Dylan, like shoes.
Oh.
It was out of desperation that Sallie got into prostitution. Her friend introduced Sallie to a man who would pay for sex.
And this is a trick or a John. And I would love to look up the origins of those words. I will.
She described the first time as incredibly difficult. Afterwards, she felt violated and dirty and wanted to scrub herself with a Brillo pad.
See, now, I could understand those feelings because she wasn't really like actively seeking out this type of work, right? It's almost like it was presented to her at a time when she could really use some extra income. You know what I mean? It wasn't her dream to do this type of work. And once it's enticing to, the fast money like you described. But, this is a very it's got to be a hard thing to do, especially the first few times. Wouldn't you think, even if you think you're ready for it?
Absolutely. I just don't think I could do it. I really don't.
I don't think anybody can afford this.
Oh, baby.
Oh, yeah, baby.
Okay, well, good to know.
Heather's like, yeah, whatever, a 6-pack and a pack of Marlboro Lights. They could do whatever they want with you.
You're a slut.
I'm not gonna
slut shame you.
I'm a smoky mouth slut.
You are. The second time was a little easier. With each liaison, Sallie became desensitized to the new job.
It's almost like when you kill people for a living. First one's the bitch of the bunch, and then it gets a little bit easier.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it was like that. I'm just kidding.
I don't know.
Or am I?
I don't know that you are. Now,
well, when we were talking about criminal masterminds, and you said you were going to be the grease guy, which
yeah.
I was like, so does that mean you're going to like fry some chicken for the crew? What does that mean?
I'm the grease guy.
So you're the guy that's going to fit into like the tight spaces?
Yeah.
With your thick thighs?
With my thick thighs. 3 C's.
Good luck with that, Dylan. I would do the wet work.
So you're tying up all the loose ends.
I'd tie up the loose ends.
You would. I think you could do it.
See, I get confused when people talk and they'll be like, oh, they do wet work. Like you're reading a spy novel or something and you hear the term wet work.
Right.
My mind automatically goes to another place.
Okay. Do you care to elaborate? Because now I'm curious.
Well, I think of like, golden tickets, golden showers.
Wow. Okay. Now,
right?
This is highbrow, long-form content now. So they're just pissing all over everything.
Possibly.
Okay. That makes sense.
Again, I am grimy. I'm down in the gutters, Dylan. My mind is filthy.
Heather's tying up all the loose ends and making people disappear with her bladder.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to flush them. Just flush them right down. Deep down in the hole, Dylan.
That's right. Get back down in that scuttle hole, devil.
Exactly. No. So the second time, like I mentioned, it was a little easier. So with each time, yeah, and I guess that's what happens. Like you said with anything, the more you do it, the more routine it becomes. It quickly went from men at the city club to the Speedway Club.
Ooh.
Which I'm assuming is associated with like maybe the motor speedway.
Yeah, things happen faster over there.
Because racing is a pretty big deal in Charlotte.
It is. It is one of the major, it's always been one of the major venues, a real hot spot or a place where there's a lot of racing, their home garage or whatever teams, homes of the teams.
Praise hell, praise Dell, baby.
You can tell I'm a racing
Richard
expert.
fucking Petty. What? Oh, I grew up watching that shit.
I've seen plenty of it myself.
My daddy loved some Bill Elliott back in the day.
Hey, I'm tell you what.
Remember Dick Trickle?
Racing might not be for everyone. NASCAR, let's say NASCAR racing. But the people who love it,
they fucking love it.
They fucking love it.
And there's a lot of money in racing.
Oh, tons.
Even just like, a quarter mile drag race, kind of track or whatever. Even dirt track racing. People pour big money into that.
It was a big deal here when they closed the dirt track.
My bestie, her dad and grandpa, they raced. They had a race car. And there was the Asheville Motor Speedway back in the day. And so in the 80s, my bestie, her dad and her grandpa had a car and they raced. And she was at the Speedway every weekend.
It's an expensive hobby.
But it's a very pricey hobby. Absolutely. So I'm imagining if she's at the Speedway Club, if that has anything to do, and I probably should have looked that up, but if it has anything to do with the NASCAR circuit, I'm sure she was hobnobbing with some wealthy folks. The team owners.
Here's my icebreaker for the Speedway Club, and I'm a working man. Okay. Do you know how to drive stick? Do you wanna? I got
Would you like me to rev your motor?
Oh, damn, girl. I got overdrive.
I've got a tank that needs filled.
Jesus. You're good at this.
I know. It's almost as if I've done this before.
Can you give me one more? You want to check my fluids? That was a good one. Come on.
You want to film my rumble?
I can't beat you. Let's move on.
Oh.
Hey, you want some syphilis?
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, that's not a good opener. That never works.
Sally made the introduction of a wealthy businessman whom he was married, Dylan. He and Sally began an affair. She was a kept woman for a period. He put her up in a nice apartment. He paid her bills, provided Sally with a new car, and handed her cash.
Damn.
Gave her an allowance. She was living the dream. I mean, some people's dream, not my dream. I would never want a man to do all those things for me.
Yeah, I'm sure that would make you sick to your stomach.
I would never use a man for his money. That's terrible. It goes against all of my morals. But it was a lifestyle that Sally enjoyed. She said, quote, "You're in it before you realize, and you're caught up in it. I'm liking the money. I like the jewelry." And these men were gifting her jewelry. She had an interest in David Yurman jewelry.
Okay.
And she really enjoyed receiving pieces of jewelry, Dylan.
Well, some people love jewelry.
However, Sally did not like the sex. Every time she was with a client, she felt angry and dirty. The men didn't respect her. And again, she felt filthy.
Well, see, here's where you got to maybe not do it. If it's basically making you feel bad about yourself. I mean, is that fast money worth that?
But a lot of people do things that make them feel bad.
What is true?
I mean, for money. I mean, let's be honest. If you're a drug dealer, you probably can't feel good about doing that kind of work, right?
Well,
knowing that you're feeding an addiction, that you're possibly destroying lives, that you are really destroying lives.
I'm sure that
you could have customers who overdose on the drugs. I mean, I think there's a lot of things that people do and they feel bad about it. If you were a lobbyist for, big tobacco or something, you probably can't go home and feel good about what you do.
Well, some people may not give a damn, but I could imagine that a lot of them, when they're by themselves in a dark room, if you will, probably do wrestle with that, and they just kind of have to block it out. You know what I mean?
Like a lawyer. Do you think that lawyers feel good about the work they do?
There's many different kinds of lawyers.
Like a criminal attorney.
A criminal defense attorney. I've got to imagine that they have to wrestle with that, don't you? If you get somebody off on
if you have any kind of conscience.
If you get someone off on a technicality.
And you know they're guilty.
But you're just a damn good lawyer and you're good in the courtroom and you win it. But you know damn well they did some terrible thing. How do you feel good about that? Is that justice? Or is that you working the system? I don't know.
Again, I think a lot of people do things for money that they don't feel proud of it, but they do it because, again, they get addicted to the money, and money makes the world go round.
Now, if anyone out there is or knows a criminal defense attorney, I'm actually curious. Let us know what they think about this, or if they've ever had issues like we're describing at mountainmurderspodcast@gmail.com.
Well, actually, one of my good friends is a criminal defense attorney.
Really?
Well, Big D, the other Big D.
Okay.
But we had this conversation one time, and he justifies his work in that, he's a firm believer in the Constitution and that everybody has a right to a fair trial and that everybody has a right to representation.
Okay.
To legal representation.
Well, and many
And
believe.
that he has a, I don't know if he wants to say he has an oath, or he has an obligation, I guess that's a better word, to his client to give them the best defense that he can.
Oh, I thought he was going to say that money could buy. But no, that a lot of people believe that that is a cornerstone of our justice system, the right to a fair trial and all that. So I could understand that. That's pretty reasonable.
After a few years, the married man dumped Sallie for a new mistress.
Did not see that coming.
You know, always got to get the shiny new toy, Dylan. Sallie, accustomed to quick money by this point, went to work for an escort service. That didn't last very long. Sallie went to a motel to find not only a John in the room, but there were 3 more men hiding in the shower.
And they were all named Tim.
Sallie was attacked. And in the process, she did manage to get away, Dylan, but she lost a high heel, her blouse was torn, and she left behind her purse and jacket. She was lucky to get out of this unscathed for the most part and with her life.
What a close call.
Yes.
How scary would that be?
Very terrifying. When she tried quitting the escort service, Sallie claims the owner set her car on fire and threatened her life.
See, this right here is why I think prostitution should be legalized for everyone's safety, including especially the workers, because this shouldn't be allowed to happen.
We will get into that discussion.
It makes it safer for the
Later.
customers and the people.
Again,
the workers.
Let's talk about that in a minute, Dylan.
Yes, ma'am.
But Sallie quickly realized that many of the escort services, and I kind of use that term loosely, in Charlotte were run by thugs. Like just flat out criminals. They were mean. They were abusive, violent. It was not a professional setting, if you will. They did not care about the safety
No.
of these women.
They want to use them.
They strong-armed them.
Extort
They used
them.
intimidation. Yes. So it was basically like, being subjected to, you're being abused by clients sometimes, but then you're turning around and you're like being abused by these managers. I mean, they're essentially just like pimps, right?
Well, no, actually, I think this is what pushes people to have a pimp, is because they're supposed to protect you from, mean Johns and other, people who may want to try to strong arm you. A good pimp, if there is such a thing, would, certainly, you might think they're going to protect you. Of course, they're just using you as well.
It was not safe at all. In 1980, Sallie began working as a call girl on her own. Eventually, Sallie hired other women to work for her. Another failed marriage happened, and after that, Sallie met Don Saxon in 1988. By that time, Sallie had enough women working for her that she no longer needed to engage in sex work. Instead, Sallie managed the women, becoming a madam, for lack of a better word, Dylan.
Right.
She worked out of the 1,600 square foot ranch home she shared with her 4th husband, Don, in southeast Charlotte. Sallie grew roses and fed bluebirds.
And managed a stable of prostitutes.
Don worked for a dental company making crowns and implants. He was knowledgeable in the dental field and worked hard. Sallie did her thing. Don rationalized Sallie's business because he loved her. And I think a lot of times when you're in a relationship with someone, you go as far as marrying that person or making a lifetime commitment to the person. You are so caught up in your feelings and your emotions that you are willing to overlook these bad things that they're doing.
Well, it's like they say, love is blind.
Exactly. And that seems to be the case with Don and Sallie. Sallie Saxon called herself Cassandra or Sandy Bradshaw. She created layers of insulation around herself, so no one knew who she was, where she lived, or what she did. Inside, though, Sallie was deeply depressed. She felt guilty about her role in life, and she isolated from family and friends. She overcompensated by lavishing her loved ones with expensive gifts. almost trying to buy their affection.
Right.
Sallie delighted in getting expensive gifts as well. She liked fast cars. She liked clothes. She liked jewelry, as I mentioned. You know, all the luxury, high-priced, high-ticket items.
And big wads of cash.
Who doesn't like big stacks of cash? I love big stacks of cash, Dylan. Many of the businessmen in Charlotte lavished her with these gifts. So even though she's not a working girl, she's
Right.
not a sex worker herself, you know, her clients are still sending her gifts. They're still gifting her these items.
To show their appreciation.
Yes. She ran a high-class operation. Sallie hired educated women with college degrees and a sensible outlook on life. The women kept 70% of their profits.
Well, that's not a bad split.
Sallie used Southpark hotels for meetings. She required condoms and safe sex practices. She gained a reputation for being fair and good to work for. Men knew her to be discreet and provide excellent services. I mean, they knew they were going to get, you know, attractive, educated, cultured women who could carry on conversations, possibly offer, you know, what they call like the girlfriend experience.
Oh, so she's, in essence, offering a high-end product that is, you know what you're going to get. You know, it may cost a little more than the other competitor, but you know that you're going to get, I mean, and I hate to describe people or women like this, but I mean, it's business. And she's trying to create almost like a reputation. Like if you go to her, you know what you're going to get. Professional.
Sophisticated. Stylish.
Hot.
Yes. Women who could carry on conversations. A woman that you might be able to take to a business dinner.
Or like on a business trip.
Exactly. Like Pretty Woman types of business trips, right?
But you just don't fall in love.
Not with Richard Gere. When the internet exploded, Sallie's business did as well. She created websites. One was called hushhush.com and another was called asouthernlook.com.
I declare.
Over the years, Sallie had hundreds of women working for her and nearly 1,200 clients.
So she's a earlier version of Heidi Fleiss.
Perhaps. I actually think Sallie and Heidi were doing the damn thing around the same time, Dylan.
Okay.
Because by the time the internet exploded, that was the 90s.
That's true.
And that's when the Heidi Fleiss scandal, the Hollywood Madame scandal, kind of broke. I believe it was like around 93, 94.
You know, I would make a great prostitute.
Are you going to give them the husband experience? You're going to like leave your dirty clothes
Yeah.
on the floor?
Yup. Drink too much. I can't get it up.
Fart in the bed?
Yeah, and just disappoint you over and over.
Rub your gross toe on your client?
Not meet your expectations or your needs. You know, just a husband experience.
You're just a gigolo?
And I can also, you know, fix your leaky pipes.
A gigolo.
Well, no, earlier.
He's just a gigolo. Okay.
Everywhere he goes.
I ain't got nobody. Nobody.
Heather was kidding me earlier because I could never do this. Would you describe it when we, at first an awkward lover, but then later a very giving and skilled lover? Yeah.
Oh, are we really going to talk about this? No, you're a very awkward lover.
Well, at first.
In the beginning.
Yeah. So
that would never work for you. Are you kidding?
One night stands and such, just not going to work for me.
It's not going to work for you, bud. Like I said, you're better off offering them the husband experience, which is probably going to be equally as disappointing as the sexual experience.
Okay.
If it's a one night stand.
For $59.95 a month.
Your best bet, Dylan, would be offering them the snuggle experience.
Ooh.
Because you're a great snuggler.
think-
You're very warm.
I think you can order a cuddler.
Almost to the point that, you know, I have to push you away because I'm like, oh my God, you're like the sun. Can you please just go sleep downstairs? You're burning me up, right? And yeah, but you're nice and cozy.
I'm hard and soft.
It's true.
All over my body.
It's true.
Okay.
Very squeezy.
Very squeezy. Yeah.
Yeah. Are we done with that?
And I have bedroom eyes that look deep into your soul.
Got bedroom eyes because they look like two big old Tylenol PMs staring right back at you.
I'm going to make you pass out.
Girl, I got some Unisom for you. Okay. Are you done?
Yeah, I'm done. I'm going to give up my hopes of ever being a prostitute.
Please don't. You should hang on to your hopes, Dylan.
Okay.
I support you.
Okay, thanks.
She usually had 6 women working per day who sometimes met with several clients. An undercover detective first learned about the elusive Madame in the year 2000, but it would take years to gather enough evidence to bring charges because Sallie was smart, Dylan.
And it would pay to be smart in this type of, it's unfortunately an illegal activity you're overseeing.
And it was paying her to be smart. She was incredibly savvy, ruthless even. She was described as, quote, a high IQ, shrewd, and full of common sense. Some of Sallie's rules were that a client met with a sex worker at a hotel. That would be their first point of contact. She required both parties to call her when they arrived. Sometimes a man would be told to strip naked while Sallie was on the phone with him to confirm that he wasn't wearing a wire or that, he wasn't an undercover cop. To be a member of hushhush.com, Dylan, Sallie required an $1,800 membership fee.
What?
Just to access the website.
Damn.
Then she charged up to $700 an hour.
Well,
so like I said, the men, the customer base, these are not like dudes cruising around in an 84 Cutlass Supreme. Okay?
No, so what she's actually serving the high-end clients,
yes,
which is a much smaller
wealthy,
group.
Moneyed people, yes.
But it's from her perspective, from a business standpoint, it's rather smart because you deal with less people, less new people. You have to pay to play, if you will. It's not just some rando off a street corner. So I would like to think that in a way it's safer for her girls. And she has this. What I'm not saying there can't be assholes or monsters that have money. That's certainly true. But she's certainly cutting out some of the riffraff and some of the BS to a degree.
This is a way, really, if you think about it, to build client relationships because it's mutually beneficial, right? You're getting the money, and they know for this $1,800. They're getting access to these services that are very discreet. Also safe for the men. They're not concerned about, getting like rolled, if you will.
Or robbed,
that kind of thing where they're in a car, the cops could pull up, the pimp could show up, a gang could pull up and pull out guns. There's, so again, it's kind of a mutually beneficial relationship. And
I'm certainly sure she had standards for her people that worked under her as well.
Well, we've talked about some of those standards.
So you certainly, I could see it being, like you said, mutually beneficial.
And with that $1,800, you're buying that anonymity.
Dude, is that annually or a monthly? To be part of the access.
To be a member, that would be like a one-time, that's a membership fee.
Oh, you're buying in.
You're buying in.
Okay.
But then it's up to $700 an hour. And for an overnight with one of the sex workers, that would cost you about $3,500.
I'm like, well, what can I do for 50? It's just like 4.5 minutes or something. I'm like, hey, what are we going to do for the extra 3 minutes?
For 50, you get me making a lot of sexual innuendos about cars.
Okay. Well, I got to say, I would pay for that.
Yeah, I'm gonna flip it and reverse it.
Oh, no. Okay, Missy.
I'm going to pop your emergency brake.
Missy Elliott.
Want to see what I've got in my trunk?
Oh, if you
That's
got
all you get for $50.
if you got big wheels, I want to search it. Oh, I don't know.
She accepted credit card and PayPal payments. And she had it set up with it was called a green dot card. I guess you can get those at a Coinstar machine. So you're able, I guess it's one of those refillable credit cards where you can transfer money around. You can put the money on the card. So again, it's another layer of protection for Sallie.
Right.
Because if she's giving you almost like a Visa gift card with your $800 that you earned on it, it's not traceable really.
No, there's no checks. There's no paper trail. Yeah. Again, she's pretty savvy.
Yes. One client paid $10,000 to spend a weekend with one of her sex workers in Chicago. Sometimes wives would hire a sex worker as a gift for her husband.
Go ahead, unwrap it.
Like a birthday gift.
I bet you can't guess what it is. It's like a 6'2" blonde, just freaking wrapped up in some shitty paper from Kmart.
Brick house.
Yeah, she is a brick house.
Okay. Cool.
Well, yeah, Sally's girls are going to be about.
Can I get her number? Hey.
Or what if you unwrap her and then open her up and then there's a smaller prostitute inside her and it just keeps going until it's just a little tiny prostitute like a Russian doll.
Oh.
That's so cool.
Like a little person?
Yeah, just end up with a 10-inch tall prostitute.
I don't feel like this.
Who's super hot.
Like a Barbie doll?
Yeah.
It's just a Barbie doll.
It's the tiniest one. I never understood the last Russian doll. It's ridiculously
I feel like this
small.
conversation is not PC and it's quickly going to spiral out into something else. So let's get back on track here.
Let's get back to the script.
This is not, I don't know where you're going with this, bud. Sallie rarely left her home, though. She never met with clients or employees in person. Sallie purchased a cell phone with a 404 area code to make people think she lived in Atlanta.
Sally's not playing any games, son.
Sallie's clients included doctors, lawyers, businessmen, cardiologists. We'll get into some of her clients in a minute.
The people who could afford her services, let's be honest.
She knew very personal details about these men, including their social security numbers and sexual preferences. I like the look on your face when I say that.
I'm just really trying to contain myself from not going. And she knows what all their wankers look like.
Some of them might be into wet work.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe a little poo-poo, a little pee-pee.
Okay, R. Kelly.
I know. I was thinking that, actually. I'm sorry. For some reason, I've had that remix to Ignition stuck in my head for half the day.
We are devolving out here in the wild, folks.
It's true. Get me back on track.
Let's read your
I'm
script.
derailing my own train. Don would collect Sallie's 30% fee from the sex workers. No one knew he was Sallie's husband. He called himself Jim.
Oh, ooh.
So Jim and Sandy or Jim and Cassandra. Some of the women traveled out of state, even out of country, accompanying men on trips to Los Angeles, New York City, Vegas, trips to Asia, to Asian countries, and to Brazil.
Dang,
so South
man.
America. But the lifestyle isn't always glitz and glamour, Sallie admitted. She said, quote, I was into appearances, into myself, into cars and money. But Sallie was also exploiting women. And while she tried telling herself it was a victimless crime, Sallie knew she was sending these women into a world of AIDS, herpes, STDs, emotional, mental, physical trauma.
All the dangers that have always existed around this type of work, because it's always been behind the curtain, in the black market. And like I said earlier, just because these people are moneyed doesn't mean that they cannot be
that they're nice.
Violent. Yeah, it doesn't mean they can't be assholes.
That they're going to be gentlemen.
It can almost be worse in a way because these people are used to getting their way.
And they're entitled.
You're talking about CEOs. You're talking about high-powered business people, entrepreneurs. They're used to people letting them do whatever they want and not having any consequences.
That's why these men need a good dominatrix to step on their balls with a stiletto.
No,
or a big chunky boot.
I've really wanted you to get into financial domination. Because
I financially dominate you, so I don't know. I'm
I'm
already into that. You just give me all your money.
I just want you to do it
Oh,
to
you
other
want
guys.
you want other people's money?
Yeah,
Yeah, I'd be good at that.
because I done gave you all mine.
Yeah, I'd be really good at it.
I know.
I need some clients.
So if you want to be
If anybody
financially
out there
dominated
wants me to financially dominate them, verbally abuse them,
and send her lots of money,
I'm here.
hit us
I am
up.
willing to accept your payments.
Hit us
And
up
I will treat you very badly. I'll give you all the abuse you want.
Contact Heather at mountainmurderspodcast@gmail.com.
I do feel like in some ways, Dylan, that I miss my calling to be a dominatrix. Really. I would be really good at that. I've always thought that about myself.
Yeah.
That's the sex work I want to get into.
I like it.
Really. By now, I think I'm too old.
No,
Unless
that's not
anybody
true.
out there is into like middle-aged women who boss them around. Now, after 7 years of investigating and collecting evidence, a break in the case came when a former sex worker who had a falling out with Sallie decided to talk. And talk she did, Dylan. The investigation included telephone wiretaps, allowing law enforcement to hear Sallie in action. And they learned she could be brutal.
Really?
She was like, fuck you, pay me.
Yeah, it almost doesn't surprise me because, I mean, obviously we've heard how she's savvy, a smart businesswoman, if you will, and all that. But you have to have that edge to you in a business like this. That's the way I view it, to keep everyone in line and including the customers and the people who work for you.
Now, this former employee was working as like a CI, like a criminal, like an informant, a confidential informant. And they're wiretapping, they're listening in on the conversations. And at some point, this CI did not want to go through with a job, but Sallie still wanted her money. So Sallie was like, pay me. And the woman didn't have the money to pay her. So the FBI gave her the money to pay Sallie.
Ah, yeah.
As part of this sting.
Oh, yeah, because they want that transaction on tape. They want it recorded.
But again, Sallie could be brutal. I mean, she was like, you're going to pay me. I don't care if you didn't want to do it. Where's my money?
Which is ironic in a way, because Sallie had to issue her own personal struggle with, getting into this type of work. So, I mean, that's kind of, I don't know, it's a bit disturbing to me because she knows how it can make you feel. She knows how it made her feel.
She does. But I guess if you're business minded, you're not going to let one person because if you allow one person to do this, then everyone's going to want to do that.
Oh my gosh, she's like a gangster.
Well, yeah. It's what it takes to be a criminal, Dylan. It's criminal minds. Police collected surveillance of sex workers and clients coming and going from various hotels. I know you like what I did there.
I bet they did.
Pun intended. Despite a massive client list, only a few names have been released. William Skipper Beck owned Mercedes-Benz dealerships in the state. He was filmed at a Courtyard Marriott in the Southpark area of Charlotte, which, if you're familiar with Charlotte, you know about Southpark. And if you're not familiar with Charlotte, it's where Carmen lives. I'm just kidding. No, it's like a ritzy area. It's a kind of a higher end part of town. The mall there isn't just like, oh, here's a Claire's boutique. It's a mall with like a Tiffany and Company and, like high-end Neiman Marcus. I mean, like high-end stores. The neighborhoods are gated communities. This is where there are multi-million-dollar homes. You wouldn't be shocked to see you might see a Lambo driving around this place.
It's kind of like in Atlanta. Isn't there a part of town that's almost like its own little mini city that is like high end like that?
Well, of course.
I forget what it's called.
Isn't it like the Buckhead area?
The Buckhead, I
Isn't
think.
Buckhead kind of like there's a lot of that, I think, around Atlanta. But South Park's definitely like a very affluent neighborhood in Charlotte. So they catch Skipper Beck at this motel or hotel. Motel, hotel.
Holiday Inn.
Howard Johnson, Hojo, have a free breakfast. Paying $400 for sex. Beck rubbed elbows with Tiger Woods and Michael Jordan at golf tournaments.
Wow. So he's right around the edge of celebrities, rich people.
He's a well-known person in Charlotte and actually like in the state of North Carolina and maybe even like in the Southeast. You know, he's got these Mercedes dealerships. He sponsors huge golf tournaments. Guess that he's there hobnobbing with celebrities.
He has to pay for sex.
Maybe he just wants to pay for it.
Hey, I'm kidding. And that's probably what it is. But, you know, I get it for free. I just have to give it a little bit of my personality. You know what I'm saying? You know, people want to pay me. You know what I mean? I have to turn it down all the time.
That right hand, babe.
Yeah.
It's got that red right hand. You just go put some lotion on the thing.
Oh, what that mouth do?
It's getting chapped. Now, you're ridiculous. Another Monroe, which Monroe is a little town outside of Charlotte.
We almost got jumped in Monroe.
Well, we won't talk about that right now. Another Monroe businessman named John Kelso reported his payments to sex workers as legit business expenses. This moron, he wrote the monies off on his tax returns as advertising expenses.
Oh, come on, dude.
In November of 2007, Sallie and Don Saxon were charged. They were indicted on charges of conspiracy to entice women across state lines, to engage in prostitution, and using the mail to distribute proceeds of illegal activity. The Saxons were also charged with conspiracy to commit money laundering in connection with what federal authorities called an exclusive internet-based prostitution ring.
Man, people always make a mistake when you do anything with the mail in criminal activity because that has brought more people down. Mail fraud, these tax evasion, these things like this have gotten more big-time criminals than I would say anything.
It's your ass, Mr. Postman.
That's how they got Capone.
During the investigation and search, authorities learned that Saxon kept detailed records of her activities with clients dating back for decades. 57-year-old Sallie Saxon was held in jail, in the Charlotte-Mecklenburg jail, without bond pending trial. A third man, a Taylorsville photographer named Glenn Fox, was also charged. Saxon had paid $36,000 to Fox over the course of 1 year for professional nude photography. Damn, Sallie, I wish you'd called me.
Gosh, I was going to say she paid him to take sexy-ass pictures, and I was right.
Because, I do some boudoir photo. Well, I did. But
Heather,
nobody ever paid me $36,000 to do that.
You wouldn't believe how good the pictures would be if you paid Heather $36,000 for the pictures.
Dang. The photos appeared on her websites, which advertised sex work. Fox, who was a pillar of his community, was like on the board of the county's Chamber of Commerce for years. He volunteered with United Way. He was active in church. And he says he had no idea. He denied having any knowledge of this prostitution business. He said he was hired merely as a photographer and thought he was doing like fine art nude photography.
Do you believe him?
I do.
I was going to say that's quite possible.
I do believe him. Residents of Charlotte were surprised to learn of Sallie's high-end prostitution ring. Charlotte is not without sex work and has for years been a hub of activity. The I-85 corridor brings drugs and sex into Charlotte.
And rock and roll.
Yet Sallie's clients were Charlotte's upper crust. People were dying to know the salacious details, and everyone wanted to know if Sallie was going to release the client list, Dylan. The client list.
I've got to imagine this was a really...
Spill the tea, Sallie. Spill the tea, girl.
This story, when it broke, had to have the tongues a-wagging.
You know.
And so much speculation, and more than one person involved, nervous as hell.
As my mama would say, buttholes was puckered.
You had wives all over the area, Charlotte, Mecklenburg area, saying, "Are you on that damn list? Are you on that damn list?" Well, by that time you went to get the milk, and it took you 39 minutes more than I thought it should for you to get that damn milk. And then you come back with some skim milk, not even whole milk, you son bitch.
You trying to tell me they sold out of the damn milk at the Harris Teeter? You're a lying sack of shit.
And then on the credit card, it said you spent $40,000 on the said milk. I just don't believe you.
I don't either, Dylan. I don't believe anything you say. Sallie would later say discretion was always her top priority. She would never expose her clients. It wasn't about protecting the men, but rather their wives and children who were caught up in a web they had had no hand in creating.
Well, okay. I mean, but you didn't. No, I'm glad you finally thought about the wives and the children and the families and the fallout of people coming and using your service, right? I mean, I kind of don't buy that, because when you were making all this damn money, you were the one who were making it possible for these people to do this.
I understand where you're coming from, but to play the devil's advocate, Dylan, she was providing a service that these men were going to go do this, whether it was with Sallie or someone else, and she was being as discreet as possible, and she was, making her employees practice safe sex, use condoms. They were regularly tested. I mean, these kinds of things. So I'm guessing, and again, I'm playing devil's advocate here because I don't know. I don't know Sallie. I don't know what her motivations were.
She might have laughed every night about the poor kids.
Yeah, she might. She might be laughing like, ha ha ha.
She might be like Jabba the Hutt, like, you little stupid kids.
You little science club soccer player. Your daddy's a hoe.
Well, we've talked about this.
But she was probably thinking like, okay, it's not hurting these wives and children because they don't know, their name isn't being dragged through the mud. I mean, you would have to know, it would be so embarrassing for your spouse or your dad to be busted.
Well, I guess,
and then his name be in the paper. Everyone's going to know.
I guess what she's thinking is, what's the point of it at this point?
Well, yeah.
And she's also likely, and we've discussed this, and I truly believe if a person's going to cheat, they're going to cheat. It doesn't matter if Sallie had this.
Well, again, like I said,
business,
these men were going to find sex somewhere.
And I'm sure Sallie also rationalized in her own mind, I'm guessing, speculating, like you said, like drug dealers and other people who may sell, illegal guns. If I don't do it, somebody else is going to do it, so I might as well get a piece of the pie. If I don't do this, it doesn't mean it stops happening. Someone else is going to do it, so why not?
In total, 5 Johns were arrested. Yet in Charlotte, the Johns were usually given lighter sentences than the sex workers. The Charlotte-Mecklenburg police, along with the district attorney, have what they call a Johns School program for first-time offenders. They're given a deal. If they attend the 5-class program, their charges will be dropped. The program consists of cognitive behavioral therapy. The facilitator helps individuals think through their consequences and risks before making decisions. They also offer STD testing as part of the program.
It's like driving school when you get a speeding ticket. That's pretty awesome.
Instead of John's school, they just call it Can't Keep Your Dick in Your Pants School.
Isn't it amazing? Like, if there wasn't John's, there wouldn't be sex workers. Yeah, because there's nobody to sell yourself to. Isn't it amazing how John's are... Because they're like regular folk, and these this is also we can't forget the affluent nature of this list of powerful, connected in the community. But I'm sorry, they're both culpable. They both. If they catch a prostitute and take her to jail, they should take the John to jail too. I don't care who he is.
Well, Dylan, my next line was, yet critics see this as another hypocrisy in a patriarchal society. The women are treated with harsher punishments, while the men, who are their paying customers, get a slap on the wrist. Without customers offering money, the women wouldn't be able to do the work. They share an equal footing in the guilt, but never the same punishments.
And I would agree completely with you.
Women who engage in sex work often do so out of desperation. They're leaving abusive relationships. They have little to no education or job skills. They turn to sex work as a means to provide, oftentimes for their families. Now, sex work was legal in the United States up until the early part of the 20th century. The brothel system in places like Storyville. Now, are you familiar with Storyville, Dylan?
I am not.
That was the area in New Orleans where prostitution was legal. If you've ever seen the movie Pretty Baby with Brooke Shields, all about Storyville. And there are some really beautiful old photographs of Storyville prostitutes.
Really?
That you should check out. Black and white photos. Can't think of the photographer's name offhand, but the movie Pretty Baby is loosely based on that photographer.
Well, I would look into that. That's pretty interesting.
Or, the Old West. Sex work was a huge part of Western expansion into the Wild West, the saloon girls, there were brothels, madams, the soiled doves, Dylan.
Iconic figures of the Old West were some of these madams, shrewd businesswomen. They made fortunes.
But Dylan, they kept sex work hidden because if it wasn't visible, it wouldn't upset the community. So they had these brothels and they had these like red light districts where it was kind of out of sight, out of mind, right? In 1910, the Mann Act was passed. It's a federal law outlawing prostitution. The Mann Act has also been called, quote, the White Slave Traffic Act.
Okay.
The three reasons, like kind of behind the Mann Act were: one, that prostitutes were often victims who were forced or coerced into this immoral line of work, basically sex trafficking, right? Two, there was also a belief that women of immoral character wanted to corrupt others with vices. So these just naughty, bad women wanted to go out and
oh my God.
And like do the Dark Lord's work with their vagina, their devil vaginas, Dylan.
Were they interviewing the patriarchy when they got that comment or that? I mean, are you, honey? If she made me do it, she made me leave the dinner table with you and the kids, and she made me go pay her for the sexes.
She popped out one of them old mean titties and it looked me right in my eye.
My good eye.
And I had to do it.
I gotta say, titties are powerful.
I agree. I know I see them and I'm at a loss for words, Dylan.
I gotta say.
Please put yours away right now.
I love a good boob.
Yeah, well, you're a big boob, so it works out. Prostitution directly related to social and criminal problems. Social problems being like the spread of diseases, and there was the euphemism social diseases. Criminal problems would arise. Drug use, theft, gambling, violence. Again, all of these vices. Nevada is the only state in the United States with legal sex work. However, it is heavily regulated and only allowed in licensed brothels at this point. Now, some argue that sex work is a human right, as we all have a right to autonomy and privacy. The government should not be telling consenting adults what they're allowed to do in the bedroom, but they like to do this. Gay marriage is a good example.
I agree with that. It's your body. As long as it's with another consenting adult and you're not taking advantage of anyone, I say you get to do what you want. I mean, I really think that. And just like you were saying in Nevada, in these brothels, these legal brothels, the difference of safety, cleanliness, disease, and all that is greatly improved. The ladies can go on, through that circuit and make $250,000 a year. And never be beat up, never be threatened. And I mean, it just makes more sense to me.
And they are given some choice.
If they don't want, they have all the power.
If they are not interested in this particular client,
or somebody does something out of the way,
or they're, what the client wants is not on the menu, then they have a right to say, no, I'm not interested, and can turn them down. Without fear of repercussions
or violence being perpetuated upon them.
Right. A reprisal. So studies show that criminalization exposes sex workers to abuse and exploitation. Sex workers are victims of violence, rape, assault, and even murder, as we know. Attackers see the vulnerability and the workers are easy targets. Because of the stigma surrounding sex work, the victims are less likely to get assistance from law enforcement. Authorities also abuse sex workers. Law enforcement have harassed sex workers, extorted bribes, they physically and verbally abused these women, as well as they've raped and coerced them into sex.
That's disgusting.
Oftentimes, law enforcement and prosecutors use condoms as evidence to convict on prostitution charges. So many sex workers are reluctant to carry condoms for fear of arrest and prosecution.
So here you are, a woman with your personal bag, and if you have a handful of condoms in there, the cops can say this is evidence that you're a prostitute.
Yes.
That's fucked up. I'm
Yes.
sorry. That's fucked up. Now, on the same other side of the coin, if you've been caught up in stings 4 or 5 times and they know your face and name and they know damn well you're out there hooking or working, I'm sorry, maybe that's a better way of saying it, then, it's kind of a, but still, you know that's been abused, that very idea.
Well, it has been.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, absolutely.
I carry lube with me at all times. Am I a prostitute?
Yes, you probably are.
Does somebody want to buy a piece of this?
I'm willing. I'm willing to sell it, guy. I'm not me. I'm his manager. So call me. We'll arrange something.
Oh my gosh!
I'm not guaranteeing customer satisfaction.
Well, if you don't just want a piece of this, the whole thing's for sale. It's on sale, rather. Buy one, get one.
Sounds good. Sex workers are not able to organize, advocate for their rights, or work together to support and protect themselves. There's often an attitude of not in my backyard when discussing legal brothels and legalizing sex work, yet sex work is happening in your backyard. There are sex workers in every city and small town around the world. And Dylan, a lot of people feel like you cannot arrest your way out of this issue.
You can't. It's just like the the alleged war on drugs. You cannot arrest your way out of this. And honestly, I agree. I feel the same way about drugs to a degree. If consenting people want to do this substance, you keep them over here, and you take all the crime out of the community. The rest of the community who doesn't want to do those things doesn't have to deal with the fallout of the illicit market being right. And the mentality of not in my backyard is always, I've seen it cause problems in so many different issues. You'll have on one hand, somebody will be pissed off about the local economy or something. And then when they try to build something near their house or something, like
you mean like a factory,
or a new business, and they'll bitch about it being near their house. I mean, it doesn't work.
Right.
Yeah, I know that was a really clear thought.
Very articulate.
Thank you.
Oratorical fireworks every damn time, Dylan. On November 2nd of 2007, while sitting in Mecklenburg County Jail, Sallie became a born-again Christian. By January of 2008, Sallie and Don Saxon pled guilty to their charges related to the prostitution ring. Sallie was sentenced to 24 months in prison. Don was given 21 months. They were ordered to forfeit $650,000 in money and property. Later in 2008, Sallie was arrested for shoplifting. It was around $50 in merchandise from a Steinmart store. She stole shorts, a shirt, and a wallet. While serving time in federal prison, she was in Lexington, Kentucky. Sallie helped with GED classes and she ministered to other inmates. Don Saxon says what happened to them was actually the best thing, as they were finally able to escape a criminal life. Sallie reflected on her 28 years as a madam through a different lens. She realized her actions were not victimless. And now Sallie spends her time being very active in church, and she's also involved in the pro-life movement. She goes to abortion clinics, and she, tries to promote, pro-life values, pro-life beliefs.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. Well, maybe in their eyes, this is a way of giving back.
Sure.
I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
she's turned her life around.
It's quite
and
different.
so now she feels like she's really doing some good in the world.
And who am I to say that Sallie and Don didn't learn their lesson or have regrets about some of their actions?
Right.
And they're not regretting the fact that they made way more than $650,000 and they got that shit hid.
No regrets.
No regrets.
Dylan, the former employee who ratted Sallie out,
The CI,
admitted that she made about $160,000 in the year before. So she made,
that's one of the employees.
that is one employee.
And if you're at the top of the pyramid,
And you have to think they're getting 70%. So Sallie's getting 30%
of everybody's.
of everybody's. And so if someone's making $160,000, that's their take.
And let alone the membership fees and stuff.
Right.
I'm telling you, Sallie, they made way more than $650,000, bro.
Yeah, they estimated something like she made $3 million in 7 years.
Okay.
I guess in the 7 years that they initially learned of the prostitution ring, and then it took 7 years of investigation and recover and all that. That in that time, they estimate about $3 million is what she made.
I'll see you, Sallie. Damn, girl.
Doing the damn thing until she wasn't.
And that is what happens with fast money.
So that has been the story of Charlotte's Madame, Sallie Saxon.
Damn. I've never heard this story. And I've been, not in Charlotte, but around the area near Charlotte many times and through Charlotte many times. And I've never heard that. So thank you very much for that.
But Dylan, at the end of the day, if you go to any search engine and you type in like prostitution or sex work Charlotte, you will see numerous articles of massage parlors that have been closed down, busts that are made at motels. This still happens.
It's never going to stop.
It's never going to stop. It keeps perpetuating.
It's never going to stop. Because as long as humans are alive, this is going to happen.
So they may have gotten Sallie off the streets, but the minute they arrest Sallie, there's 10 more who've replaced her.
Sallie was responsible for getting a bunch of other people off. So, at the end of the day, who really loses? Oh my gosh. Look, I did a little homework. I know where the term John came from.
Please share.
Do you know?
I do not, or I would have chimed in.
The term John may have originated from the frequent customer practice of giving one's name as John, which is one of the most common name in English-speaking countries. Yes,
is it John Smith?
In an effort to maintain anonymity. In some places, men who drive around red light districts for the purpose of soliciting prostitutes are also known as curb crawlers, K-E-R-B.
Curb crawlers.
Why does that fit better?
I like that.
It does, doesn't it?
Next time want to insult somebody, I'm going to be like, you old curb crawler.
Yo, curb crawler probably can't even afford none of this.
Ew.
Why don't you crawl your asshole over there?
Oh, gosh.
This is some high-end stuff right here.
Is that what you're going to say to them?
What would you pay for a round with me?
For a round with you?
Be honest.
It's priceless.
No, but, okay. Not the awkward me, the real me.
I know. It's priceless.
Stallion.
No, I love you.
Oh, baby, I love you.
I would give up all the money for you.
Well, I could never sell myself to anyone else.
I don't know. If somebody came along and they offered us like $1 million, like in that Indecent Proposal movie, your ass is going. You're doing it, Dylan.
We've went through a lot lately. Things have been crazy. We're just trying to figure out our next move. And
Dylan would like an indecent proposal, so please hit us up, mountainmurderspodcast@gmail.com.
I think I know a couple of people.
This could be used against us in a court of law, Dylan.
I know a couple of people that would probably offer a pretty indecent proposal for this. A shot at this.
Charlie Sheen.
Witchcraft, the occult, extremist beliefs, murder. Tune in to Rogue Darkness each Friday and join host Raven as I uncover horrific crimes committed under the misconceptions and misunderstandings of witchcraft and other belief systems. I'll cover a wide range of crimes involving ritualistic killings and extremist beliefs to cult persuasion and supposed possession. Anything and everything that borders the line of horrifying. There's always 3 sides to a story. Side A, Side B, and then the truth. Let's uncover the truth together and explore the darkness of mankind, one crime at a time. Available wherever you get your podcast fix, simply by searching Rogue Darkness.
Okay. I'm going to put Heather to bed. I'm done. I can't do it anymore. Thank you so much for that. It was a nice departure from murder, if you will.
Well,
But
Dylan,
it's an interesting story.
It's still crime.
It's crime.
But I did kind of want to maybe do something different because we do discuss all of the most horrific things in the world on this podcast sometimes. So it is nice to take a break from that, but still keep up with the crimes. The crimeses.
I like the departure, and I hope there's more in the future.
Hey, if you have a listener story, we would love to hear from you. Email us at mountainmurderspodcast@gmail.com. Also, you can subscribe to our Patreon. Support the show. It's a great way to get bonus content. On Patreon, you get ad-free episodes. You get a link and invite to our Discord chat so you can come be part of the Discord fam.
We love you guys.
And we have bonus episodes there, extra content that you can only access on Patreon. We have been doing a little bit of a series on haunted castles. So that's been really fun. We're continuing with that. We have some other series in the works for Patreon.
Yes.
Some other things that we're going to be doing this year. So you definitely want to keep up with that. Dylan, anything else before we say farewell?
You know, we're going to have more time to do extra stuff. I want to bring back the FBI files on Patreon. I really enjoyed those.
Oh, yeah. We do some FBI, some of the most wanted.
Yeah.
We talk about some of the FBI's most wanted. Wild stuff.
And if anybody has a fake and decent proposal for me, Dylan, hit us up at mountainmurderspodcast@gmail.com. If it's funny, I will read it aloud.
Oh, gosh. Well, we would love to hear some of your indecent proposals. That would be a great joy for me. I would laugh and laugh and laugh.
All right, Heather.
Okay, Dylan. I'm really tired. I have to go to bed.
I'm going to put you to bed.
Bye.
Bye.